There's another one you don't want to hear. Frankly, if do I.
1, 2, 3, set, go.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Power Chord Hour. As always, I'm your host, Anthony Merchant, welcoming you to another episode. And this one is episode 12 for you, and it is our March rundown, going through what has happened this month in the world of music, the world of Power Chord Hour, all of that good stuff. Talking about music news, going to play you some stuff that came out, and I'm very excited. If you listen to the February rundown or the January rundown, you know, the beginning of the year, one of my things that I bitched about, you know, is just there's just never a lot of music the first couple months, you know, in a year. I never feel like that. You know, we get a few albums here and there. Every now and then you'll get a couple singles, but there's never a whole lot of music. And then I kept saying, you know, like wait for March or April. And then, yeah, we've gotten a ton now in March, you know, part of that just being that naturally, I feel like that happens every year. March is about the time that you start getting a lot more new releases. But obviously this whole coronavirus thing has also like, you know, there's a lot of things that weren't supposed to come out yet that, you know, were pushed ahead, which makes total sense. You know, during this time, I think a lot of people appreciate that, you know, including when you're stuck at home or if you still have to go work, you know, either way, having some new stuff to listen to is never bad. So, you know, I feel like we got an influx of really, really good music this month and a lot of new releases. I'm going to talk all about that. And, you know, before we get into it more, you know, if you've listened to any of the interviews this month, and we've done quite a few, you know, you can't get away from the topic, coronavirus, obviously, I mean, for good reason. But I would like to tell you all about a podcast, because, you know, we talk about it a little here, but if you want to stay up to date with the coronavirus, there's a new podcast called the Coronavirus Daily Briefing. It's a new podcast that comes out every day by 5 p.m. with the latest headlines and context around the COVID-19 coronavirus crisis. So you stay up to date, you know, every day by 5 p.m., you know, you actually know. It's not something where you're listening like once a week or anything like that. This is, they, you know, keep you up to date every single day. And this one is from Ride Home Media. They're the daily podcast people with all the things that have happened today, all the things you can do to protect yourself for tomorrow. It's a quick 15 minutes and you're up to date, nice and easy. You know, you get the facts and then you can move along. And the New Yorker magazine has actually called it one of the top coronavirus podcasts to listen to. And they said that it stays on the ride side of informed, non-hysterical, and focused. So go search your podcast app right now and subscribe to the Coronavirus Daily Briefing. That's the Coronavirus Daily Briefing. Go check that out. You know, during this time, it's definitely something you want to stay up to date about. But it has been very interesting, you know, the interviews that I've been doing lately. You know, just this month we've had 3, which I'm very happy about. You know, if you've not checked them out yet, we talked to Joe Rio of Hidden in Plain View about the 15-year anniversary of their record Life and Dreaming. Also talked to Joe Normal of Joe Normal and the Anytown'rs, all about his music and what he's doing lately. And we got into that because, you know, he's definitely a gig musician who goes out and, you know, definitely relies on playing gigs and touring and stuff to make his money. And, you know, obviously with all this happening, and he was one of the first ones because he's in LA. So, you know, when I talked to him, that was one of the first places where bars and venues were getting shut down. And, you know, it's just a weird and interesting time, but we talked all about that. And then also Ben Jorgensen of Armor for Sleep, last week's episode. And people seem to be liking that one. I thought Ben was a great guy to interview, but people seem to really be liking that. It's becoming one of our most downloaded already. So if you're an Armor for Sleep fan, go check that one out. But it was another album kind of retrospective, which I've been doing on this show and I really have been enjoying. But that one we talked about their sophomore release, What to Do When You Are Dead. And that's another one, because if you didn't know, I mean, Armor for Sleep they've kind of done things on and off here and there, but I mean, they've been broken up since 2009. But they are getting back together to play that album for a anniversary tour coming up here in the summer. And they just re-released the album on vinyl through Equal Vision Records with a bunch of cool bonus tracks and demos and whatnot. But, you know, we talked about it too, because as of right now, you know, that tour is okay, but who knows? You know, it doesn't start until, I believe, June. But, you know, everything's good now. But like he said, it's like, hey, you know, I mean, things can change like at the drop of a hat right now. And same with vinyl. You know, the vinyl already came out, but I guess it already sold out. So, with Equal Vision, they were talking about pressing more, but like he said, it's like, those are things that are getting shut down right now. Now's not particularly the time to be able to get records pressed or anything like that. And you notice that with a lot of bands right now, like I mentioned, everyone's kind of releasing music right now, but it's mostly digital, because people just, with all this stuff shutting down, obviously, it's not really a time that you can press, 1,000 7-inch records, just like that. But yeah, I mean, all three of those interviews, I guess the Joe Rio one, we didn't really talk about it because they're not touring or anything off that right now. But, with the other two, with Joe Normal and with Ben Jorgensen, I mean, we did talk all about that, kind of how it's affected them and what it can affect. And, there's a lot of, it hasn't come out yet, but an interview that will be coming out in 2 weeks. And I'm very stoked for you to hear. This is the first mention of it actually on here. But I talked to Greg Eklund. He is the former drummer of Everclear. And when I say former drummer, he was on the huge albums. He was their drummer from 94 until 2003. He was in there for 9 years. So, I mean, all the songs you hear on the radio, he's the one playing on those. I mean, he was in there for the biggest time of the band. And another album anniversary interview, we talked all about the 25th year anniversary this year of their sophomore record, Sparkle and Fade, and his first record with Everclear. We got all into that, but we also got into what he's doing now, and he has some really, really exciting projects. He has 3 different projects, and I won't spoil it all right now. I'll wait for the interview, but he does have a lot of we'll say has a lot of coals in the chamber, whatever analogy I'm trying to make that I think I'm butchering. But anyways, he has all these things coming up, but no real release dates because, like he said, it's kind of halted. One of them being a film where he's going to do interviews, and it's like, well, that's kind of hard to do right now. And he has music to release, and that's another one where it's like, they have to, it's not that it's all done, it's that it's almost done, but like the things that you would need to go do now, it's like he really can't do, and it's really putting stuff on hold. But, I think most people I'll be having on the show here the next couple months, it's like, I don't think there's a way to escape talking about the coronavirus because it's affecting everyone, and, it's affecting a lot of musicians, and, whether how they play shows really, because a lot of them are going online now and doing the online thing. Like I'm sure Stage It has seen a resurgence, which, is neat. I think I don't know. I think after this, maybe we'll see more of that. Stage It and a couple others have been doing it now for like the last decade. I mean, there's definitely online concerts. This is the first time that it's happened, but people are doing it a lot more now. And it'll be interesting to see if we see a lot more of that afterwards. Not in the sense that I see it replacing live music. I don't see it doing that or anything. But it'll be interesting if more bands kind of do that as a kind of side thing. I mean, interviewing a lot of musicians too who are in bands who aren't doing it so much now. Like kind of like the Hidden in Plain Views or Armor for Sleeps. Like interviewing them this last month. They kind of talked about it, both of them kind of being like in a place in their careers where it's like, hey, we kind of went and we cut our teeth, 10, 15 years ago they were doing that. And it's like now it's kind of more for fun and a little more laid back. And, with things like that, those bands who can't tour constantly or don't want to tour, more than a couple weekends here and there, maybe we'll see them do more like online concerts and live streams and whatnot. It'll be interesting. I think we're going to keep seeing them right now, as long as people are, locked in and venues are closed down. I think we'll keep seeing them. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see afterwards, if that's something that kind of continues, But I really, this month, I'm really happy with the interviews we've had. I mean, if you haven't checked those out, definitely go back and hear those. And I also put up a throwback episode last week with my interview with producer Michael Beinhorn, multi-platinum producer, Grammy Award winner. He won a Grammy because he co-wrote Herbie Hancock's Rocket, which, I mean, is just an amazing thing. I wish I would talk to him more about that. But he's just one of those guys. I mean, he's been doing it for 40-something years now, so it's like when you go interview a guy like that, and I talk to him for like 30 minutes, it's like you can't hit everything. You just can't. It's not possible. I remembered another one, which I'll probably put up sometime soon for throwback episodes. I interviewed Ken Stringfellow of the Posies. We mostly talked about the Posies, but I mean, he's also been in REM. He's been in Big Star. He was in Lagwagon. I mean, he's been in so many different bands. He's worked with like Marky Ramone and done a bunch of other things. He's worked with everyone. I mean, punk, alternative, indie, you name it. He's worked with them. But that's another one. I interviewed him for like a half hour about the 30-year anniversary of the Posies, and we never really got past like their first 2 records. I was kind of trying to hit certain points and stuff, and it's like, within 30 minutes there's just so much to talk about that you just don't get to everything, so I guess it's a good excuse to have a part 2. But yeah, if you haven't heard that Michael Beinhorn interview, you should go check that out. I mean, some of the biggest records of all time he's produced, and definitely of the 90s. I mean, like, if you go put on any rock station right now and they play like a rock song from the 90s, more than likely, like 9 times out of 10, Michael probably produced that song that you're listening to. I mean, it could be Black Hole Sun, it could be Celebrity Skin, it could be Somebody to Shove. I mean, no matter what it is, he probably produced it. So he's a very interesting guy. Would love to have him back on. Maybe for like an album anniversary one, maybe talk to him more specifically about one record that he's worked on. Something like that I think could be a lot of fun. But go check that out. Let me know what you think of the interview. And we got some really cool ones coming up here. Like I said, Greg Eklund, he was amazing to talk to. I mean, I won't talk too much because you're going to hear it in like 2 weeks here. Depending, I mean, you might even be hearing this later on and it may be available. So go check out the feed, the Power Chord Hour podcast feed, see if it's on there. But I mean, we talked for about 2.5 hours all about, Sparkle and Fade, his time in Everclear, him doing the Oolahs after and kind of bringing them back together now. I mean, his work with Storm Large, very interesting career. And I mean, we got into it. Now that's an in-depth one. That was one which even in 2.5 hours, we got to have him back on. And he talked about it. He's like, yeah, I'll definitely come back on. So he's someone we'll have on again in the future. It's kind of funny. I'll like tell you this now, like you haven't heard this interview yet, but we're already going to have a second one eventually. But I mean, he was so fun. And I mean, once again, I'm going to get into this on the podcast when I release it, but it's like, when you want to talk about like albums you remember, like in your earliest days, I mean, So Much for the Afterglow is like one of the first albums I really remember hearing. That and like Superdrag's Regretfully Yours. Like there's a handful of albums and songs I really remember from being really, really young, like under maybe 5 or 6. And I mean, Everclear would be one of them. So I mean, talking to Greg, the guy who plays drums on all these, absolutely amazing. And not just that, but I mean, I think I've fallen more in love with Everclear, specifically Sparkle and Fade. Like it was a treat to really talk to him about that, because that one's probably become my favorite Everclear record these past couple years. It's normally been So Much for the Afterglow, but in my old age of 27, I start to think Sparkle and Fade is my favorite. So I mean, to be able to talk to the guy who played drums on it for 2.5 hours, absolutely amazing. I can't wait for all of you to hear that. Have some other really cool ones coming up too next month if you're a Drive-Thru Records fan. I know we talk about them a lot on this show, but I did talk my top 5 drive-thru releases with my buddy Zach Gorszewski of the band Kickstart. So we talk all about that, and that one's a nice long one. That's going to be a 2-parter for you, and kind of cut that up just because it was so long in a good way. I mean, we went on forever. So if you're a pop punk fan, I mean, this is one where I think you'll enjoy it if you want to reminisce. If you're a fan, or actually even if you're not a fan and you want to learn more about like Drive-Thru Records, like that early 2000s pop punk, it's a crash course, man. I mean, we really get into it. So either way, I think you'll enjoy that. Have a couple more that I won't tease just yet because they aren't recorded as of this recording. But I have some other people I've reached out to and booked some things. And, if there's one thing I want to do while we're all cooped up inside, one is, well, I guess 2 things. One is to bring you all, some entertainment while you're stuck in the house cooped up. I know I like to listen to my favorite podcasts and music right now. It's kind of what it's keeping me entertained. And also, just as many interviews and whatnot as I can get. I love talking and having different guests on the show. And, what better time than while everyone is stuck in the house and can't go out and perform or anything, including with all these bands right now releasing new music that I feel bad for, who, including smaller ones. Like, one of my favorite releases of this month is the Bombpops' new record, Death in Venice Beach. And it's like, they're doing pretty well in the scene, and I think they keep getting bigger, but it's like, that's not they're not a household name. They're not the biggest band in the world. So it's like, for them to have to cancel their tour, and what I assume is one of their first headlining tours around the country. I mean, I know they're coming to like New York State around me, and I probably their first time headlining around here, maybe one of even the first times they've ever even played this part of the country. And, to see that where, you have to cancel this stuff, understandably, I mean, it makes sense why. It's not like, oh my God, like, how dare they? I mean, most of these bands, even if they wanted to play, they can't play right now because everything's shut down. But I'm just saying, it really sucks because it's like you go out and promote, I mean, touring like that is how you promote the record and whatnot, and not being able to do that really sucks. So, I mean, even if it's the smallest things of, playing their music more on here, or, I would love to get one of them on here. Would love to get a member of the Bombpops. Maybe we'll do that sometime soon. And, just them for an example. I mean, so many bands right now who are smaller who, going out and playing were probably going to be how they promoted their records and really got it out there. And, now they can't do it. So, definitely a bummer. I mean, I'm far from the first person to say this, but definitely go out and support any artists that you enjoy and that you love because, right now it is definitely a tough time for them. And I'm sure they would definitely appreciate the support. I would say so. And it's funny. I've been talking about it on here the last couple months, just kind of how I hadn't been to a show yet, probably last time I talked about maybe in the last rundown for February, but how I hadn't seen a show yet this year, and it has not happened yet. So, and I'm definitely not seeing one now for the foreseeable future until we're allowed to again. So this is easily probably the longest time in my life. No, not probably. This is the longest time in my life I went without seeing a show or going to a concert, and including in the new year. I remember in 2018, I think it was, I didn't see my first show until like mid-February, and that 2 years ago was the longest. Like normally I go see a show in like January, and that was like, like the longest into a new year that I had waited to see a show, and now it's like, there is none. I'll see my first show of 2020 in like September at this point. So, it sucks, but it's one of those things too. It's weird. It's weird to complain too much because it's like you understand why all this is going on, so it's like, yeah, I get why, we can't, like, I'm not complaining in that sense. Like, how dare I not be able to go in a crowded, venue with 100 sweaty people to see a punk band? It's like, I get why we can't do that right now, but, I'm definitely missing going to shows, and I'm sure everyone else is as well. Let me know. I mean, I know things are getting canceled, but they're getting, a lot of them are hopefully getting postponed or rescheduled. But, once everything's over, what tours are you looking forward to the most? Hit me up, powerchordhour@gmail.com. Like I said, I mean, I know there's so many that, are getting postponed. So I get that a lot of them are up in the air, but, either way, what ones are you looking forward to that were going to happen that you're looking forward to happening after it's all over? I mean, I would say my biggest one would be the Alkaline Trio Bad Religion co-headliner. I mean, that tour I was really looking forward to. So that would be like my most anticipated coming up here once, we can go to shows again. So that'll be cool. And, also like, let me know what you're doing right now. I mean, to kind of stay sane in the house, everyone kind of has different things to, cope or to keep them company. I mean, I know definitely it's been a good time to listen to records again. I've been going through my record collection more, kind of looking at what I got and, some of the things that I forgot. I definitely, these days I don't really buy records like I once did. I will go, I'm less of a collector, I would say. I still go buy records here and there, like, new releases. But I used to be a lot more into like, oh, I want this rare variant, or, I want all the colors of this one, or, I want the first pressing. I'm really not like that anymore. But I will say though, even like my peak record buying would have been like from 2011 to maybe 2016 was like my real. Like, I won't lie, there were definitely times where, I could go drop $100. I'm sure a few times I dropped like $200 in a record store. I still don't know how much like my biggest like record haul of all time ever is. I don't know how much that would be, but I'm sure a couple $100. I definitely don't do that anymore. Part of it, it's weird. It's kind of two things. I stopped in 2016, like buying records a lot. Like I said, I still buy records, but I would say I went from buying, maybe 50, 60 a year, if not more. That might even be, an understatement. From going to that to, purchasing, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 records a year, like physical vinyl. I still do a lot more digital and whatnot. But a big part of it was in 2016, I traveled cross country over the summer. And I was sleeping in my car most of the time. I mean, unless I was like at a friend or family member's house who would let me sleep there, I mostly just saved money by sleeping in the back of my Honda Element. It fit me just enough. I'm 6'5", so I mean, not a ton of room, but enough room to sleep in there. But, when you do that, you really can't go buy records like I tend to, So at first it was kind of tough because I'd be going to, all these different states and going to like these record stores that I heard of for years and finally got to go to them. But it was like, yeah, I'm not going to go spend $40 on this record and then it get warped in my car or, like the sleeve get destroyed or anything like that. So I kind of stopped then. I remember I bought two altogether. I went to a Hot Topic that had like vinyl sales and like I spent like $12 on two records. I got like Bigwig self-titled, I think, and Heart to Hearts, one of their EPs before they broke up. And they just put out a new one actually this year. You should go check out. But like theirs before they broke up from like 2014. But I like bought those at a Hot Topic for like, I don't know, $5-6 each. But that was all I bought. I did buy CDs though. It kind of resurged that where I'd buy used CDs because like I was hitting up like Amoeba Records and stuff. And it's like, well, I can't leave here empty-handed, which I didn't because I think at Amoeba's I bought like $150 worth of used CDs. I think I bought a couple T-shirts and a couple other things too. But the bulk of that $150 was CDs, and I was buying used ones too, so that kind of gives you an idea of how many I bought, because they weren't expensive. These were like $5-6 CDs, and I almost even want to say they had something going on where it was like buy 2 or 3 used CDs, get one free. Yeah, you know what it was? Because I remember I had my huge haul up there, and as they were cashing me out, they're like, oh yeah, you can get like, I don't know, 2 or 3 more record or CDs, like they're free. So I remember running back real quick and going and finding. I think there were a couple that I hesitated on and didn't pick up where I was like, okay, well, if they're free, I'll go grab those ones. But, that was definitely a big part of me stopping buying records, because after I did that, I just kind of stopped. Like I never got back into it, even being home, like just traveling more, I stopped that. And I think also just doing that too, as I travel more, just as far as money goes, it's like it kind of transported that, my old vice was buying records, and now my new one is traveling. So it's like, if I can only afford one or the other, it's like, all right, I gotta go traveling. But, even with that, with my record collection, I got to say, I was never one to spend, like, I can say this, like, with happiness, or, I can be happy to say this, that as much as I have spent on records over the years, no one record I ever spent more than, I believe it was $50 or $60 years ago for a brand new Is Your Favorite Weapon. I bought the first press from Iodine Records. It was sealed, and I bought it for, I want to say $60 or $70 maybe. And which, if you know anything about that, even to this day, I mean, I know people, it's kind of brand new, is a little frowned upon now to be a fan of. But I mean, even with that said, with all the, like Jesse Lacey shit and whatnot, those records still sell for like $100-something. And I mean, I got that thing like dirt cheap when you think of that, like half of what it's worth I paid. And I actually bought 2 of them. I got the other one a little cheaper. I was kind of like one was sealed and the other was open, which even the open one's still really, really rare. But I was still like, hey, I'll give you $80 for that. And then would you sell a second one for like a little cheaper? Because I was like, I'm going to keep this one, unopened. I'm not going to open it, and then I'll play the other one. This was even before I think they repressed the record too. So at this time, this was all you could get. They've repressed it since, but back then all you could get was the iodine pressing, and was definitely not cheap. But I mean, I got it cheap considering, and that still to this day is the most expensive record I ever bought. Now, I will say I have sold, and not flip, I do want to say this, I would preface it by saying I've never bought records to flip them. I hate that. I mean, you're a piece of shit if you do that, if you're going out and, buying up records to go resell them. But I've definitely been in times where it's like, I'm traveling, or I want to go travel and I don't have the money, or, I need to pay back from after traveling. I need to pay off the debt. And I can't believe what some records go for. I mean, I won't sit here and do that. That seems in bad taste. But, I've definitely had a few that I've bought where I'm like, I never even think of it again. And then I look it up one day because it's like, oh, I need, I'm kind of like thinning out my record collection, or I need a little cash or something. And then I look and I go, oh my God, like that record's selling for like $200 more than I paid for it, which is just insane to me. I mean, more power to you if you collect vinyl. I mean, I'm telling you, for a good 5 years there, I mean, I don't know how many hundreds of 7-inches I bought, how many 12 inches. I mean, I still have them. I mean, it's funny because I've downsized, but by saying that, I still have hundreds and hundreds of records, like even downsizing and selling a decent amount of my collection. I'd say 10-15% of my collection, maybe I might even jump that to like 20 or 25% that I've sold off the last couple years. But it's like, even with that, I still have hundreds of them. But yeah, I mean, I'm just surprised at what some of them go for now. But, yeah, I've just, during this time, being stuck in the house, I've been going through my collection more, just kind of looking at it, not even to sell them at this point, but just kind of looking through and admiring them and whatnot. You kind of remember why you get into the physical goods thing and why that, why a record's definitely a lot more fun than the digital thing. You actually have something to touch and hold, and reading the liner notes and whatnot. Those are, and a lot of times those liner notes are nice when you go to interview someone, and you don't always get them digitally, so it's nice to have the vinyl or the CD to go back and read through. If there's some information or something you want to ask about. So yeah, I mean, that's also another thing, also hit me up. I love hearing from people who listen to the show, and I do want to thank and shout out anyone who's hit me up to let me know they listen to the show and enjoy it. I really do truly appreciate that. But another question, rarest record you own, hit me up, powerchordhour@gmail.com. What's the rarest record in your collection? I would say for mine, I don't know the rarest of rare. I do have some test pressings, so maybe one of those. I have a few Hawthorne Heights ones from like just a different couple of their albums. I have a few from Punchline. I have some Drive Through Records ones. I'm trying to remember which ones they are. I have one from Homegrown. I'm trying to think of the other, and the Movie Life, I think the other one was the Movie Life. I have quite a few test presses, so one of those might be. And the other thing too is, I guess it depends value/rarity. I mean, I just want to know your rarest one. It doesn't have to be the most expensive, because like I'll say this, like I have a test pressing for one of the for this band Caught Inside, and it's a 45. And it is one of 3 that exist. And I mean, Caught Inside are already an obscure band, and the test press that it's for, like that 45 itself is rare. So the test press is even rarer. But with that said, a lot of people don't know who Caught Inside are. I would say most people don't know who Caught Inside are. So yes, it's extremely rare. If you're looking for it, you're probably not going to find it. Me and 2 other people in the world own it, but how many people are looking for it, So maybe not the most valuable, but the rarest. So let me know your rarest in your collection. I'd love to hear that. And, just drop me a line, powerchordhour@gmail.com. Let me know that stuff. And also, if you just want to talk music, everyone's stuck inside right now. I love to hear from people who listen to the show. And, I can ask anyone else who's hit me up on there. I can talk music for days. We can sit there and bullshit about music. I love to hear from people. So hit me up while you are stuck inside. And also let me know who you want on as a guest on Power Chord Hour podcast here. I've been doing a lot more lately. We're going to have a lot more in the future. So let me know who you would enjoy hearing on this show. And I'm going to get into it now. Like I said, a lot of good new music coming out this month. Here's some stuff to check out while you are stuck in the house. Chief State just put out Tough Love, some really good pop punk there. One that was really good and I was not expecting to come out yet was Alkaline Trio with their EP. It is just called EP. It really doesn't have a name. I don't even think it's self-titled. It's just called EP. It's really good. I'm going to play you something here in a minute, but it's, they really never disappoint. I mean, like Blink-182 post Tom DeLonge with Matt Skiba, I like a few songs. I'm overall not huge on them. But as far as Alkaline Trio goes, they never disappoint. There's really not a record that I don't like from them. And this EP is great. I mean, it's only 3 songs, but the 3 songs are amazing. I mean, if you're an Alkaline Trio fan, I don't see why you wouldn't like this. They don't go too far off the beaten path. It sounds like Alkaline Trio songs. They sound great. I think my favorite, I'm actually going to play it for you, is actually an acoustic song, though, on there. And I got to say, I like them both, but I'm normally a Matt Skiba guy when it comes to like my favorite songs on records. But this EP, I think Danny steals the show. I think the best one is a Danny song. So you definitely want to go check this out. I'll play something for you here in a minute. Screeching Weasel put out their new one, Some Freaks of Atavism. And this one's really good. I mean, this one, I love Screeching Weasel. And they're another one, like with this record, just like with Alkaline Trio, it's like, they don't do anything here too left field. It's a Screeching Weasel record. It's good. If you like Screeching Weasel, if you like Ben Weasel's wise-assery, whatever you want to call it, his wise-assery, I'll call it that. I think you're going to like this. It's really good. It's really catchy. It's just some classic Screeching Weasel pop punk that, basically only the way that Screeching Weasel can do it. And another band talk about a band who's been at it for quite a while, but putting out some of their best music right here. The Suicide Machines with Revolution Spring. This one just came out on Fat Records, was produced by Roger of Less Than Jake. And let me tell you, their best record of this century. I will say it right here. And I like all Suicide Machines records. The first two are my favorite, just like anyone else's. But this is their best record, I would say, in 20 years. I like their self-titled record. I know it's polarizing. Not everyone does. I'd say this is their best since they're self-titled. But if you're not a fan of their self-titled, I would say go back one, and I would say it's their best since Battle Hymns. I guess it depends if you like self-titled. I'm a fan of self-titled, but if you're not, I would compare this to like being their best since Battle Hymns. I really, if you like this band, and even if you've fallen off, I mean, I don't know why you would fall off. They're still putting out great music, but they've just been around so long that some people do that, or they forget about a band, and they're like, oh yeah, I loved that band back in the day. Go check this out. You're going to love it. I mean, it's classic Suicide Machines, but once again, without sounding like it doesn't sound like them on autopilot or anything like that. Like, it's a new Suicide Machines record in 2020. It sounds amazing. Roger did a great job producing this. But I mean, if you're a fan of the old school sound, it's a punk rock record, man. It's a punk ska record, and it's damn good. I mean, the Suicide Machines being like, I mean, Destruction by definition, it might be my favorite ska punk record of all time. You know, it's just so good. They're just always good. You know, Jay can write a good punk rock, you know, anthem, and there's quite a few on here. So go check out Suicide Machines, Revolution Spring. If you can't tell, one of my favorite releases of March, and one of my favorite releases of the year so far. We got more good music for you, though. Also, Sun Titled with Pure Forever. We got Fake Names with Brick. This is their debut single, and they're a new band on Epitaph Records, and they feature Brian Baker and Dennis of the band Refused. Really good stuff here. I'm excited to see what the rest of it sounds like, but this is really catchy. I really enjoy it. I mean, not kind of out of nowhere. I didn't know they were going to be putting out any music, or that Fake Names was even a band, but they kind of came out of nowhere, and I'm pleasantly surprised. I think you will enjoy that if you're a fan of either Brian or Dennis's work. We got Joe Normal and the Anytown'rs just putting out a brand new single, Living With Me, and this is really new. I mean, I interviewed Joe 2 or 3 weeks ago at this point, and this was not out yet. He did mention, though, that they were working on new music that was going to be coming out really, really soon, and he was not lying. This is their new single out on Big Stir Records. I'm also going to play this for you coming up here in a minute. But you should definitely go check this out. Joe Normal just writes really good rock and roll. I mean, it's just no nonsense. I mean, when I interviewed him, he said it. It's like, we're a rock band. You know, we're not a punk band. We're not an alternative band. We're not this or that. We're a rock band. And, you know, I respect that, and I think he's right. I mean, they're a pure rock band in a time where not a lot of people are just doing pure rock and roll. But that's what this is, and you're going to hear it very, very soon. I think you're going to enjoy it. Another one, Two Middle-Aged Queers just put out their first one, Two Fag for Love EP. And that is a super group, actually. I can't remember all the bands off the top of my head, but I mean, a bunch of people from veteran punk rock bands in that one. Go check it out. Andy from Tsunami Bomb put it out too. Really good stuff there. Go check them out. And the Bombpops putting out, maybe it's a toss-up between this and the Suicide Machines' new one. But Bombpops put out one of my favorite releases of March, one of my favorite releases of the year, and my favorite release I think they've put out. When I first heard it, I really liked it, but I still had it on par with like Fear of Missing Out. Now that I listen to it more, I go, I think this might even be better than Fear of Missing Out, and I loved that record when it came out. But Death in Venice Beach by the Bombpops, really, really good. I mean, I can't say enough good stuff about the Bombpops. One of the best bands doing it right now, with you know, kind of current day pop punk, or, you know, punk rock, whatever you want to call it. I mean, they're like doing it so well. I mean, there's just so many other bands out there that are doing things I'm just not. I don't know, like pop punk for me is kind of, I mean, I've loved it forever, if you can't tell from the show, but after a while you do hit a place where it's like things become stale again. Like, I think pop punk had its time. It got a little stale for a while, and then in like the early 2010s, you had like the Wonder Years and Man Overboard, and Handguns, and The Story So Far, and This Time Next Year, and Transit, and I mean, a bunch of other, Forever Came Calling. I mean, the list goes on, of a really bunch of really great, mostly on Pure Noise Records, pop punk bands, which was great. And I think by like 2014, it had just become, a lot of it became stale. Not even those bands I mentioned, but just the genre. Like, a lot of bands were coming out sounding like those bands that I mentioned, and just not doing great. And I think right now pop punk's at an interesting time where it's maybe not in a place as good as it was 5-6 years ago, but there's still bands out there doing, as there always are. You know, no matter if a genre is doing well or not, it's like, It's the same with punk rock. Punk rock has its ups and downs, but there's always good punk bands out there. And same with pop punk. There's always good ones out there, and Bombpops are one of them. In a time where I don't think every band is cranking out the best pop punk, they are. They're putting out some of the best. And I absolutely love Death of Venice Beach. So it only makes sense that we kick off this little block of new music for you with the first single off of it, and one of the strongest. Really, really good. I mean, there's nothing I can say here that the song won't say. It speaks for itself. It is amazing. So right now, opening up this little block of music for the March rundown of the best new music this month, here is the Bombpops with Notre Dame off Death in Venice Beach, out now on Fat Records. And here it is on the Power Chord Hour podcast. Here on the Power Chord Hour podcast, that was one from friend of the show, Joe Normal, with Joe Normal and the Anytown'rs. That was Living With Me off their new single out now on Big Stir Records. And when I say new, that is very new. I mentioned it earlier. I mean, interviewing him, 3 weeks ago, I think it was at this point, that was not out. So that is brand new. Go get that off Big Stir's website, and go tell Joe Normal that you heard about him right here on the Power Chord Hour podcast. Before that was Chief State with Try Hard off their new album Tough Love. Before that was Alkaline Trio with Smokestack, my favorite song off their new EP, just called EP. Just go look up Alkaline Trio EP. It's out now on Epitaph Records. And opening up that block of music, one of my favorites of the month, one of my favorites out this year so far, that was the Bombpops with Notre Dame off their new album Death in Venice Beach right here on the Power Chord Hour. Got to have one of them on very soon to talk about that record. I mean, like I said, one of my favorites of this year so far, right up there with that new Suicide Machines. We're getting some new good music, and it's Fat Records as always. They're always putting out some of the best music, and 2020 looks like a very solid year from them, so I'm very excited. As we're closing out our March rundown of the Power Chord Hour, I got some music news for you. Can't end the month without a little music news. This is kind of neat if you're an iPhone user, and I feel like most people are. Apple Music is rolling out a feature that's going to display new music notifications from your favorite artists in your library. So they're rolling out this feature. Apparently right now, some users are getting it, so it's kind of like in beta testing, but apparently everyone should get it sometime soon. But in your library tab in iOS, you'll go in there and you'll get a little notification from all your favorite artists. So say the Bombpops put out something new, you'll get a little thing in your Apple Music that says, hey, Bombpops just put out, a brand new EP, or, they just put out a new full length. So that's kind of neat. I feel like... with the internet and technology, I mean, nothing new at this point, but as we keep getting further and further, it's easier to make music. There's more bands out there. I feel like people are just consuming the most music now than they ever have in their lives. So sometimes you need those reminders. It's funny, but really, with all this technology and convenience, I think something like that, like notifications to let you know, hey, this new band's releasing this or that, is very important. It's very easy. Even for me, I do a podcast, a radio show, so, you want to keep up on everything that everyone's releasing and whatnot. But, it becomes tough. A lot of times, a lot of new music comes out, and, this is a really, I don't know, I think it's smart on Apple's part. I think it's a good way to be able to keep up to date with the bands that you love, and including ones who maybe haven't put anything out in a while, who maybe go away and then come back, and, you kind of need that attention from people again, because they forget and they move on. So it's kind of nice to be like, oh yeah, remember that band you were into? They just put something new out. So I don't know, I'm looking forward to that. That's pretty cool. Another great, some really good news and some new music coming out, which I'm sure will be great. Good Riddance. They just put out a new album not too long ago, but they're releasing a benefit EP for World Food Program, and really good cause going out there. But these are some songs off from the sessions from last year's Thoughts and Prayers. So yeah, that new album is really new. Just came out late last year. These are from that session, but they have not been released yet. So these are unreleased songs from that. And Good Riddance is going to be donating 100% of the proceeds to the World Food Program, and they work with U.S. policymakers, corporations, foundations, and individuals to help provide financial and in-kind resources and develop policies needed to alleviate global hunger. So it's going to a good cause. I mean, you're getting some great punk rock. It's going to a good cause. Good Riddance are a great, another, talking about Fat Records, just another great Fat Records band. And I've been doing it forever, and it's cool to see them, do something like that and for a good cause. And while everyone's, stuck at home, some new music, something to look forward to. So I think that's awesome. And speaking of Fat Records, can't get away from them on this show. I mean, I love them so much, like in the label loyalty episode a few weeks ago. I talked about how they're like one of the last labels out there who I really feel like no matter what they put out, you go check out. I know I'm not the only one like that. Most people are like that, I think, where it's like, oh man, something new came out on Fat Records. Yeah, I'm going to go check it out. Like, it's going to be good. And a band right now keeping everyone keeping them entertained while all this is going on is NoFX. And you should go check this out if you haven't yet. If you're a NoFX fan, you've probably seen some of them because they've been doing it now for a couple weeks. But on the Fat Records YouTube page, they've been putting up all these different new music videos and songs. I believe they were supposed to be spread out more. A lot of them have already been made, but it's kind of like with that Alkaline Trio EP, this kind of happens and all of a sudden you have, you can't tour, you can't really release things the way you plan to. So they're making the best of it. And so far they put out a new song, I Love You More Than I Hate Me, with a brand new official music video, coincidentally featuring the Bombpops in that really, really funny music video. The Bombpops steal the whole thing, I'd say. They have some really, really funny scenes in there. They put out Just the Flu Acoustic. It is an acoustic version of a song off Ribbed, and there's a music video for that. And they also just put another one out here just the other day, and they keep putting out more. They're all on the Fat Records YouTube page, and NoFX and Fat Records put it out on all the social to go check it out. But they've been putting up, acoustic versions of old songs and putting out new songs and music videos to accompany them all. It's really cool. I don't know if this is leading to a new NoFX album eventually or not, but either way, by the time the quarantine's done, whether or not it's a whole album, we're going to have who knows, a handful of new NoFX songs and videos. So I welcome that. I think it's rad. That's a little music news for you from the month of March as we close out here. Been a very interesting month to say the least. And going into April, it'll be very interesting when I join you again at the end of next month with April Rundown, about the music that ends up getting released or what's going on and the music news and whatnot. It'll be very interesting to see where we go from here. But I do know this is kind of just the beginning of it, so who knows. But thankfully, we have music here to keep us company. And if you want to keep us company, I would love if you stay connected with the show. Follow us at Power Chord Hour. We're on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook under that handle. We're also on Spotify. Just go search Power Chord Hour, and I put up playlists constantly up there. If you've never checked out the radio show, I put up a playlist every week of everything that I play on there. And you should go check out the radio show. We're on 107.9 WRFA every Friday night at 10 Eastern. It is different from this show. It's still the Power Chord Hour, but it's the radio show that we've been doing now for 4 years, and I spin you a bunch of punk rock and alternative songs, lots more, even more than here. I play a few songs here and there on here, but if you go check that out, I play tons of songs every Friday night for you, let you know what's going on, music news, all that fun stuff. So go check that out, and you can listen from anywhere. It airs in Jamestown, New York. But you can listen on the WRFA mobile app. Just go search 107.9, or not even that, just search WRFA in the Apple App Store, and you'll find it there. And you can also stream it from anywhere on the WRFA website at WRFALP.com. Go check it out there. You can stream the station and hear all the other great programs on there. We got some really good ones. And go check that out. Stay connected with us. And also, hit me up, powerchordhour@gmail.com. My questions this week, who you want to hear on the show as a future guest, and, like your rarest record in your record collection. Not even the most valuable, but what's the rarest record in your collection? And also, it would be cool. I need to do this. I've thought about it, but it's always kind of been more of an idea. But, I'm looking for more stations to put the Power Chord Hour radio show on. So, I know people listen to this podcast all over. If you know any really good, community stations that, would play a show in your area who, spins punk rock and alternative, send me some of your favorite, local stations. Maybe I'll try getting a hold of them. I'd love to get the Power Chord Hour radio show airing on more stations around the country. That would be very neat. So hit me up, and then, maybe we can get that around there. If you enjoy the podcast, maybe it would be possible for me to get my radio show near you so you can tune into that as well. But hit me up, powerchordhour@gmail.com. And I also have some Power Chord Hour pins to give away. So, just hit me up there. They're absolutely free. Let me know your address, and I'll send you some out. I also have a bunch of I guess they're mixtapes, but they're burnt CDRs, because doing the radio show, whenever I go down to the radio station to do it, I have to make a little mixtape basically to bring down, the playlist for the episode. So, I mean, I literally have hundreds of those. So, if you'd like one of those with just a bunch of random music from the radio show on it, it's basically a mixtape, and I'll send you one of those with a pin. So hit me up, powerchordhour@gmail.com. Give us a follow all over social media at Power Chord Hour, and subscribe to the podcast if you have not yet. If you would, I'd love if you left us a 5-star review, and if you'd like to write a little review or not. It would be appreciated. It would be very cool. We're just starting out, so we just have a few of them. But yeah, rate and review the show if you would. Subscribe. Tell your friends all about us. And we will be back next week with our first guest of the month of April. We definitely got some more guests for you coming up. I'm really excited about Greg Eklund. I think you're really going to enjoy that one coming up. Very long, nice, long, in-depth interview. I mean, there's a lot of interviews out there from his time in Everclear. I mean, if you go look it up, I mean, and it's funny too, because they're all from like MTV and stuff. Like, you go look up, I mean, he's been interviewed by huge publications and whatnot, but they're all kind of those short interviews that bands do, like on MTV, where it's like 10 minutes and kind of on the surface level questions. But this, we go all in depth. I mean, he was extremely candid and very cool, and what he's doing now is extremely exciting. He has some really cool stuff he's working on. So I mean, we talk all about the past, but we talk about the future as well. And I just kind of inadvertently made a joke, I guess, to So Much for the Afterglow, the first song, because we never talk about the future. Yeah, we never talk about the past anymore. Well, we do both of those on this upcoming episode, so do not miss that. I love Everclear, and hopefully you do too. I love Sparkle and Fade, so it was so fun. It was a dream come true to do this, and if you're a fan, I think you'll enjoy it as well. But that is going to be it for this week and for this month. So a very happy end of March to you, and a very happy, let's hope a very happy and healthy April coming up to you and yours. And thank you so much for checking out this week's episode. And if you need more, check out this week's episode of the radio show this Friday night at 10 Eastern. And until next week for the Power Chord Hour podcast, I'm Anthony Merchant. Thank you so much for listening.